SQL Friday number 72. That happened today, and the star of the day was Mikey Bronowski. Mikey was presenting on how we can use ARM templates and Bicep in combination, how we can use PowerShell Desired State Configuration to create any type of infrastructure or configuration on our servers or in the cloud if we use serverless as well. I really enjoyed the presentation. I hope you will as well. If you want to see future SQL Friday presentations, then join the meetup group, meetup.com/SQL Friday. Sign up and you will get the notification when a new event is published. I hope you will enjoy today's presentation with Mikey.
All right, the recording is on. Welcome everyone to the first SQL Friday of season 4, which will be SQL Friday number 72. And our start today is Mikey Bronowski, who is going to talk on the topic, arm your bicep with disk, how to make your life easier while building new environments. So basically, how do we script and automate our cloud infrastructure? Is that a good summary, Mikey?
Yeah, so that would be good, I think. So it's not an overview of each technology. It's more the session about connecting all these three things to make something nice. So you can do stuff with ARM or Bicep and DSC, but I wanted to show something that we can connect, merge all of them, and build, in this example, SQL Server with a code. So
cool. And I see you have the perfect PowerPoint presentation.
Yes,
I don't.
I don't need more slides. It will be just demo. So hope you like it.
Great. I'm going to mute myself, and people, if you have questions, type them in the chat, and Mikey will stop for questions, and I will relay them to him.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will just move my chat. Oh, Teams crashed. No, hopefully not. Okay, I'm not touching this. Thank you for that. So my name is Mikey Bronowski. I'm Microsoft Data Platform MVP and Microsoft Certified Trainer, currently living in Southern England, in Southampton. So if you see my video, that's the Queen Mary 2 in the port. I can see that ship sometimes from my window. And I took that picture in the park. If you want to get in touch with me after the session about this session or something different, you can send me an email at mikeybronowski@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, the same handle. I'm there. On LinkedIn, I have my Polish name as well, which is Michał. So don't be confused by that. I sometimes blog on the on this address, bronowski.it. And mostly I write about SQL Server, PowerShell, and hopefully we'll start blogging about Azure as well. So today I want to show you a small demo of what DSC, the desired state configuration, and ARM templates or Bicep can do to build a brand new environment for you from a script. So let's start with the DSC, desired state configuration. That's a PowerShell package module to not only work with SQL Server, you can build stuff from code. You define the code in the config. You define the architecture in the config file, and then you just deploy that. So it will help you to just keep the standard of your builds in place. And I'm going to show you in this demo just how to do this in SQL Server. But first, let's quickly see what is DSC, what we can do even on our local laptop. So I have here are the resources. I will share them after the session. I will put them on my GitHub repo. So if you want to read more about the DSC or this PowerShell resources, you can find them from the script. So let's go to the location here. Perfect. We need the config function in order to define the infrastructure we want to build. So let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to open that in a separate tab. It's a big script, so VS Code cannot handle that. I think it has 20 lines or something. And I don't know why it cannot handle that. Come on. Yeah, yay. So 23 lines for my function. And basically, that's the name of the configuration function that we will call. I'm using also parameter as a computer name because I want to deploy that configuration to the node. And by default, it will be localhost, but then I can provide different nodes. So if I want to apply this configuration to multiple servers, I can just pass them as values to this parameter. And what I'm doing here. So first, I'm going to import the DSC resource, which is the PS Desired State Configuration. And depending on what you do, what you want to install, what you want to build, you have different resources. And you will see in the SQL demo that we have more resources for the job. So it depends what you want to do. In this short demo, we just need one resource. And this is the definition of what will be done on the node. So here is the parameter. And here are the two things I'm going to create. That's the resource, it's file. But in this example, it's a directory. So it's a resource called file, but it's actually creating the directory. And what it does, it creates the directory that will be the name. And there is a parameter called ensure that means present. So it just creates, it makes sure that when the configuration is applied, this folder exists. And then the other resource that will be created has depends on and references the previous resource. So it makes sure that the folder exists before it creates the file. So as you can see, the type will be file, and I'm going to create the text file, just empty text file. And again, make sure it exists. And I can also put the content into the file. So basically, I want to create a folder structure on my local drive like this with a file, text file with this text. I don't have this folder. So let's go see here. First, let's load this function to my session with .source of this configuration file, configuration function. And we can make sure it's all cleaned up before we go any further. It's done. So when I call the configuration function, it will create the MOF files, which are manage object format files. And they will be compiled based on the configuration. So now I've cleaned up my folders. There's nothing here. And I'm going to call my configuration function against three machines. One is the name of my laptop. The other one is the localhost. And the third one is some random name I picked. Of course, only one name exists, so we will see lots of errors. but I wanted to show you that it's possible to run this against multiple nodes, multiple machines. No errors. Oh, we are just creating the configuration. So no errors at this point. So I created the MOF files, and we can see them here. So these are the MOF files for each node. So let's see example of that config file. So it has slightly more lines than the config functions. It adds all the extra bits, so you don't have to create them manually, and adds some details about who created them, when, and so on. So that's the MOF file. Okay. So what we want to do now, that I showed, we want to deploy this configuration to the nodes. So I'm using the function from the module start DSC configuration. And what's happening? Why it's passing the folder where all these configuration files are, and a few parameters here. Verbose to get more details of the output, and wait will wait. We'll keep the console busy until the configuration is finished. And I'm going to kick this off now. Just okay, it's gone. Perfect. So let's kick off the. You know what? Let's switch to PowerShell 7, just to make sure it works. It will work on the PowerShell 5, but I was doing this on PowerShell 7 before. So let's load this configuration function. We don't have to create the MOF files because they are created on the drive, not in the session. So I can run the configuration now. And I just wanted to show you that this folder, this will be created. It does not exist. So, I'm not cheating here, at least here. So I'm going to kick off the configuration now, apply to the nodes. And now we will see some errors because some of the machines, they don't exist, like this one doesn't exist. Okay, the configuration is applied. And now I can open the folder and see the folder has been created, the file has been created, and the content of the file has been added as well. So it's a very tiny demo of what DSC can do on your local machine, but we will see much more of that with the SQL Server. But that's basically what you have. You configure what you want to have. You define your configuration and then apply to the servers. So if I reapply that, it will just say it's there. It won't recreate anything because it makes sure the file exists there and the folder exists there. Cool. The one thing with the Azure, we can export that configuration as a zip file. So I'm going to show you this now. Let's make sure we are in the proper location. And using the publish az vm dsc configuration function, I'm going to publish this configuration file as a zip file. So it can be then placed somewhere like in Azure storage or GitHub or any other place where you can reference that zip file. That's done. That's done locally. You can also use the same method to deploy that to the Azure storage, but I'm not going to do this now. I just wanted to show you what we are getting here. So we get the zip file, and now how does that look like? It's a very tiny config file. So it has my configuration function and some metadata JSON file, which has nothing. But you can use modules, so you can basically split the configurations in modules and then load them in different times, so to keep your code clean. And the config I'm going to use later with the SQL is also a zip file stored on my Azure account, but the content of that zip file is something like that. So I have a PS, the configuration function, which is called SQL install. I'm going to import a few more resources to do something on my SQL Server. So first, the PS desired state configuration. Then I want to use the SQL Server DSC to take care of my SQL Server. Then some extended resource and also storage DSC resources. And I'm going to do just a few things. It will be basic installation of the standalone SQL Server instance. So I need to have the Windows feature enabled in order to install the SQL Server. The X remote file will help me to get my, in this case, it's not a config, it's a ISO. So I'm a little bit cheating here because I kept my SQL Server 2019 ISO somewhere in my Azure storage. So I'm going to get that file to my machine once it's built. I'm going to mount that machine, that image to the machine as an S drive. So you can see different resources. Here is Windows feature, here is X remote file, mount image. One thing I've learned, I have to wait a few seconds before it's mounted, so it doesn't kick off immediately, because then the installation will say the S drive is missing. So I just have to wait a few seconds, and then I will kick off the SQL setup resource, which is the installation of the default SQL instance. So just a default SQL instance name, just a single engine, no other features. Where is the source? Where is the binaries of my SQL Server installation? Who will be the admin? And I also want to make sure that before I kick off the SQL setup, it waits for Windows feature and mount image resources. So that's the config of my DSC. So you see, it's not very complex. It's not very big, and it will install the SQL. It will download the ISO, mount it, install, and do other stuff. You can add extra resources and do stuff with SQL Server. So that's DSC, and that will be done in a while. So at this point, do we have any questions about DSC?
No question. I just have one comment for myself. I didn't know you could do this, actually. So I have just recently created PowerShell scripts that installs SQL instances and configures them, and it's quite a hassle to make them idempotent. So if I just want to change something in the configuration and rerun it, I need like 100 if statements to check, is the instance already installed, is the port number changed, etc., etc., etc. So
yeah, so shouldn't be an issue here.
Sorry,
shouldn't
Michael.
shouldn't be an issue here with the DSCs.
I'm happy that someone did that for me. I should have known before I created those scripts, though.
So I can suggest Jess Pomfret's blog. She was writing about DSCs a lot. I'm not sure if she was using the cloud or it was just on local machine where you can play with DSC locally. But I always wanted something to play with the Azure. So if I can transfer what I can do locally and deploy that somewhere in the cloud, and I found it. So it's fun. So yeah. And there's a community supporting the DSC resources, so it's good. You can also contribute by creating your own resources if someone thinks it's missing or needs adding extra stuff to SQL or any other bits, they can just contribute on GitHub, which is
Cool.
good. Okay, so I will go next to the ARM templates. Just briefly, I had last year I had a training about ARM templates, and they are not the most pleasant thing to watch on the screen as training. Lots of curly brackets and basically JSON file. So yeah, but I will show you what that is quickly. So basically, whatever you create a resource in Azure, so even create a resource group here, just an empty resource group. I'm going to create empty RG somewhere. Review and create. Let's tags, no tags. It's good to use tags in Azure in general, but I'm not going to use any tags. Here, almost every time you have a link, download a template for automation whenever you create a resource in Azure, and it will look like that. That's a simple one. So you can see that there's a resource type, resource group, API version. Depends what is the current API version, or if you are using something older. There might be some parameters, variables, and so on, like tags. I didn't put any tags, but if I did, they will be there. So you can see, and there's also some parameters here. So that's the template. You can download that. You can save that to the library. It's preview. Since I've seen this for the first time, it's always in preview. So then you can reuse the templates to change the parameters and deploy. In this example, I wanted to deploy a resource group with a name, some name, and I can put that name as a parameter. And next time, I can just change the value of that parameter, so it will create a new resource group with a new name. So it can get complicated. If you have more resources, you can get templates for almost everything in Azure. And I have a resource created as a backup, because with Azure, I'm not always sure if I get what I want. I need to connect there. No, thanks. Connect. I need to connect to my Azure account. I'm connected now. Cool, perfect. Because I will be using Azure functions and I will be working with Azure, so I'm using the AZ PowerShell module to do different stuff. The AZ module is the one that contains all other modules related to Azure. For SQL related stuff, you can use az.sql, and it will also install some extra modules that are needed for this to work. Okay, so I have a resource group called DSC ARM Bicep Backup. So I'm going to pick this resource group, and there's a VM called Bicep VM. I think I can show you that. So that's my backup, and we are going to recreate this whole thing just without the backup. Here's my VM, and I want to grab the template for that resource. So I can get the AZ resource group like that. It will show me the details of my resource group with all the resources, and I can export the whole thing. So it will export that to my, let's switch to the location here, to ARM. It will export that to this folder. So let's run. It will take a while. You'll get some warnings, some things cannot be exported and so on, but yeah, we can ignore that for now. So it exported the resource group here as a JSON file. This JSON file has how many lines? A lot, 440 lines. So that's whatever I've created in this resource group is in this template. So we can redeploy that template and hopefully it will do the same thing as we've seen. So if I drop that resource from my Azure account, I should be able to deploy that with the same stuff. So that's how you can get the template of the resources after you create. If you don't click the download template while creating the resource, you can always get the template for all the resources, even if you added more different resources, not just resource group. So this functions, this function here, VS Code, you need to double click, takes care of the whole AZ resource, but we can also add the specific, we can export a specific resource ID, and we can also get a template for a specific resource group deployment. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. And it's here. So I had only one deployment on the resource group level. So there is no point for me to download that. But if you have multiple deployments, you can pick one of them and see if you can change something in the template, or if you liked something in that particular deployment. And to do so, there's a function save save-az resource group deployment template. I have a feeling some of the Azure functions are like poems. They are very long. We can also have any deployment from the Azure account. So that was just for the resource group, that's particular resource group, but we can have different deployments for different resource group. So it might be to create the resource group and create the resources in the resource group. So that's one other level of the deployments. And we can also have Azure resource group deployment that was here, and we can save a specific deployment like that. So let's see what's there. I'm going to share that script so you'll get that, so you don't have to type it or screenshot. So I'm going to save that as arm.bicep, arm2 bicep.json, and that's here. So that's my another deployment. Another deployment scripted out as a template. Cool, and you can see my password here. So yeah, I use clear text password in templates. Don't do that.
It's your production environment, right?
Yes, it's a clear password by default and open on firewall. Yeah. So these are the ARM templates, and as you could see that the JSON file can be quite difficult to read sometimes, and there are curly brackets and lots of stuff. So there's another format for templates. It's called Bicep, and there's a website here. I still cannot open Teams now. my Teams crashed. So it's in the script. So it's Bicep. Actually, it might be Bicep Playground. I think that's the name. So aka.ms bicep demo. When you go to that page, you will get this window, and in this window you can, well, not in this, it's black, it's just dark, nothing there, empty. So slow, everyone is busy. So on the left hand side, it's a Bicep version of what's on the right hand side, where it's ARM template. So you can copy one or another and then do decompile, and it will save whatever you had in Bicep to JSON as an ARM. So it's one thing to compare scripts or stuff in templates, and it's slightly shorter. Well, in this case, it's 20% shorter, but who counts? And you can see the difference between Bicep structure and ARM templates and then JSON structure. So that's one way to work between Bicep and ARM. And there is also a function to decompile. That's the decompile the Bicep to the JSON. So here I'm using the Azure CLI, not PowerShell, and that will basically take this JSON file. Did I say the other one? I say location. It will just create the file in different location instead of the folder here. It's here. So it picks up the JSON file, the ARM template, and it will create the Bicep version of that file. But since the compilation, the warning says is a best effort process, so there is no guarantee it will be fully mapped, and you still might want to work with the parameters and variables. So it's not guaranteed that it will work straight away. It might need some tweaking after that, but that's what I used. I used the Azure CLI, and I used that with the Choco install. So instead of installing that the old way, I used the Chocolatey. It's a package manager, package manager tool to install software with command line. It's outside. It's not related to any of the other topics like DSC, ARM, or Bicep, but it helps you to install software on any machine with just code. It keeps the packages. It's maintained by Chocolatey, so you can even install SQL Server with Chocolatey. And I demoed that last year for a different topic. So there are multiple ways to install SQL. But in my case, I just installed the Azure CLI with Chocolatey, and then I use that instead of PowerShell. But there's no reason you shouldn't, or you don't want to use PowerShell. I just thought I will try the Azure CLI for that. So I have the Bicep file. That's perfect. And you can see the deployment of the machine is just 2 lines, and I'm using this using the CLI here. So first I'm going to create the resource group. So I need the location, the region, and the name of the resource group. And then I'm going to deploy the Bicep template to that resource group and create my whatever is in this main Bicep file. So I'm not using this Bicep file. I just converted because I'm not sure if it works. I have a special file prepared for that I know it's working. So that's my Bicep file. And I can go quickly what I'm doing here. So I'm just defining few resources like my admin password again, my user, perfect, are all here for everyone to hack. The IP addresses, so the version of the OS, size. So it's basically a template that I used to create VM in Azure, and then I just saved it as a Bicep or JSON and then converted, but with some tweaking to make it working with my demo. And the important bit that connects all the first topic, DSC, is here. So I'm going to use the resource called DS extension, and that basically is using the VM name parameter, but it's going to use the configuration here. So I have my config file stored in Azure. You can add it to GitHub or any other location. Just make sure this process has access. When it's in the cloud, it has access to this file. Some people I've seen, they were using the storage accounts with secrets, so it's more secure. I just wanted to focus on the easiest way, just to show you how it works. So I'm just picking up the random file from internet with some config and building SQL, building something. So it's not a good practice. Again, just to pick up random file. And I'm going to kick off the SQL install function, the one I showed you before. It was here. It was here, SQL install. That's basically what I'm going to do on that server in Azure. Cool. So I did this yesterday to create the backup, and I'm going to create this new resource group and the server, and we'll see what is going behind the scenes. So let's quickly go to the Azure portal just to make sure the resource doesn't exist. So I am not cheating here. Again, I just cheated a little bit with this file. So I'm going to create the resource group now. Brilliant. So if we refresh, yeah, it takes a while to show up in the portal, but it will be there, I hope. Yeah. In a minute. Well, it will be a empty resource group. It's there, so I can kick off I've got the configuration. It's been created, so I can now create it's here. It's just empty resource group without any resources. So I'm going to kick off the deployment to that resource group with the Azure CLI. So, and the config file. So I have two customizations. One is the Bicep file, which is a template, and that template references the DSC configuration somewhere. So that's what you need in order to deploy that to your environment. So I'm going to kick this off now, and we'll hopefully see some progress shortly. I get the warnings before because I'm using the clear text password, and I'm also using the hard-coded URLs here. So not here, but in the DSC configuration. So Azure is shouting at me, don't do this. So we can see it's running. Let's quickly switch to the Azure resource. Let's see if, yeah, we can see our resources are showing up. That's good. Let's wait for the VM to show up, and then we will connect to the VM, and I will show you how nice it is to see what is happening on the VM. Hopefully Azure is not too quick, so we can catch it while it's doing their work. Okay, VM is created, but it's not ready yet. I don't think it's ready. So that's my other VM. It's already installed. And this one. My key, and it was, yeah, I don't remember the password was in the config file. So it's good, it's in a clear text. So I can use that in the Bicep, in the Bicep, in the Bicep. That was the reason why I kept that in a clear text. But you don't want to do this in your prod environments. Okay, so I'm going to connect to this machine. Wow, it's quick. Last time I was doing the demo, I had to wait a while for the VM to be created. It's already there, so we might be too late to see all the goodies. But let's see. So I'm going to go to my computer and see if it mounted the S drive. If that's the case, we can see that it starts doing the job. And let's open the task manager as well. So I think it downloaded the ISO already because oh, maybe it's doing this right now. No S drive yet. So good, that's good. So we should see the it should be downloading the software, and I think it was the C temp. Let me quickly check that. Oh, perfect. Go away. Go away. So I'm going to this config file. So I've placed that in the C DSC demo dir. So it will be on the C drive. Refresh. The file is not there, which is okay. We are waiting for this to show up. And so it takes some time. It's still running, so it didn't fail, which is good. Just need to wait for this to show up. Yay! Here. So we have the file, the folder. It created the folder. It's downloading the. We can see the network spike. We are downloading the ISO now. So, well, I'm not doing anything. The Bicep was doing this. It downloaded the file. The next step was to wait a few seconds and then mount it as an S drive. So it mounted this as an S drive. Basically, I could just go away now and leave you to that, and you see the beauty of that. And now we should see the scenario engine, which is the SQL Server installer here. Oh, and one thing I want to show you quickly. We didn't have SQL on this server. So we can see the CPU is spiking again to install the SQL Server. Get service, MSSQL. Yep, there is no SQL Server there. So we need to wait a while. It will install the SQL. We can probably see the folders that are being created in yeah, that's just being created right now. So it's being installed right now. And when it's done, we can see the SQL Server. Let me see, install module DBA tools. Tools. So the DBA tools module is the community created module and maintained by community. Well, it's created originally by Chrissy Lemaire, who needed that for some migrations, SharePoint migrations, but then it has grown and got some audience and popularity, and it became a very, very useful tool to do anything in SQL Server. Someone called the DB tools SQL Server Management Studio in command line. So whatever you can do in Management Studio, you can do with DB tools. If you can't, you can always raise a PR pull request and create a feature or add something, and it will be there. So the project itself has a website. I know it's very SQL specific, but it's SQL Friday, DBA tools, but not everyone who's interested in automating stuff with ARM, DSC, or Bicep wants to do the SQL, but that's the project main website. And there's over 650 commands, I believe, right now. So you have different categories. You can do whatever you want. And I will be using something like get database. So when you go to the specific function, you have examples and all the details about the commands. So I will be doing this to connect to the specific instance. So MySQL is still being installed. Hopefully it will be done shortly. Do we have questions at this point?
No questions. Well, I have one. Did you do any contributions yet to DBA tools?
Yep. Last week I've actually submitted PR for 3 new functions.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
what were they?
It was to remove partitions scheme and partition function. So
Right.
DBA tools have loads of functions and very useful functions, and but there's still place to contribute. And for it's probably not just DBA tools, but in many cases I've seen that when we are creating something, we don't think about removing that thing. So there were functions to create a partition scheme or to get a partition scheme, but there were no functions to drop them, and there is still place to do this. So it's not a finished project. It's lots of done, and it's fully functional, but it can still be improved and added new functionality. So it's a nice place to be there and to use it. So I was lucky in last 2 places to use the DB tools. They helped me a lot. You can install SQL Server with DB tools as well. I had a session at PASS about this. Is it SQL? SQL.
Install DBA instance, I think it is.
Yeah. Install DBA instance, yeah. And it's lots of parameters, everything can be customized. So there's multiple ways to install SQL, and that's good. Oh, I think we are done. So let's see the service. Perfect. The SQL Server is there. It's running. So I think I can connect DBA instance, localhost. I don't have Management Studio installed on this server because the Management Studio, well, I didn't pick any extra features to be installed, but also the new version doesn't come with the SQL Management Studio like they used to be. and con get database, get DBA database. So we can see the databases are here. So it's fully functional SQL Server built with just 2 lines, actually 1 line. I know it's a lie because I've seen some article you can predict weather with only 5 lines of code, but in those 5 lines they were calling different algorithms and methods, so it's a lie. But in my case, it was just 2 lines to create a resource group in Azure and deploy whatever was in this file. But we've seen that this file had more of this stuff, and yeah, that's basically it. That's the whole thing I wanted to present today, to show you how to connect the 3 technologies and to make something functional. And I can drop that resource group and run this command, and it will be done again within minutes. It took me, I think that's the confirmation. It took me 10 minutes now. 10 minutes to build the VM, and it kicked off all the other things. So it's not bad when you just want to install SQL, or I've been in places like they told me, oh, we have 2 instances that just failed. We need to rebuild them. Can we do this by tomorrow? Like, oh, wow. And we did this in some cases manually, in some cases with just config files. But with that, you just say, yeah, okay, 10 minutes, all done. So that's perfect. That's very good. And I like this session because it shows not only just, it doesn't focus on one bit. It shows you how to connect the other bits as well, but it can be improved, I'm sure, with all the security stuff where you don't put the clear text password, or you hide the config file somewhere that right now everyone can download that file, that zip file, because it's open, but I don't mind. But yeah, for the enterprise deployment, it has to be secured. As we know, the world out there is wild, and everyone wants to get our data and access to the servers, to the environments. So,
but your SQL Server, is it now open to connect to from the internet, or did you?
No. No. So the machine itself is not. I think it's only unblocked to me. I'm not sure.
Because it's a fun, I think, security drill to do. Create a VM, install SQL on it, open the port 1433 to the internet, and wait 10 minutes and then look in the error logs. And you will see at least 10 IP addresses trying to connect with the SA account to it. It's you have to secure your resources, basically.
Yeah, it's like the real. Well, that's a real threat, but it's like with all these viruses and bacteria. When you go there outside, you are being bombarded by everything, because there are people, there are animals, and everything, and you have some kind of a cover, either immune system or something else. So I think that analogy is very similar. If you just go there open, like with open wound to the crowd, there is a chance something bad happens.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to present. I hope you like the session. If you have any questions about that, drop me an email. If you have questions right now, just let me know. I will try to answer them. And you can reach me out on these channels. And I believe this sessions it's recorded, so it will be uploaded to the YouTube, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually, yes.
I still have
pressure.
a few sessions from the previous season I know it's been a crazy end of last year and beginning of this year, but I'm starting to catch up with life again. So
Yeah, it feels on paper, it feels doable, right? If it's every week, but then the life hits and things happens and it gets complicated.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be talking to you and all of you folks on the call. And yeah, I wish you a good afternoon wherever you are. It's my lunchtime soon. So yeah, enjoy your weekend and hopefully talk to some of you in the future.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and thanks for coming on, well, first short notice and then short notice again because I had to reschedule. So Mikey,
No problem at all.
for doing this.